The night was filled with music and laughter inside a grand mansion where the city's most powerful young millionaire, Arman, was hosting a party. Expensive cars lined the driveway, guests held crystal glasses, and every corner of the room shone with luxury. But in the center of it all sat Arman, a man who had everything: fame, wealth, and respect. Yet, his pride was bigger than his fortune. He believed that there was nothing in life he could not buy. For him, people, dreams, and even love had a price tag. As the night grew late, his close friends gathered around him. They were used to his arrogance, but sometimes they liked to tease him about it. One friend laughed and said, "Arman, you think your money can get you anything. But tell me, can it really buy someone's heart?" Arman smirked and leaned back in his chair. "Of course. Everyone falls for money sooner or later. Love is only a sweet name for comfort. Without money, no one stays." His tone was confident, and he expected laughter in return. But instead, his friends exchanged glances. Another friend, Samer, spoke with a challenge in his voice. "If that's what you think, then prove it. Win the heart of someone who values honesty more than money. Someone who cannot be bought." Arman raised his eyebrow, curious. "And who would that be?" Samer replied without hesitation. "Her name is Zoya. She is a teacher in a small school in the city. She lives a simple life, and everyone knows she has no interest in wealth or power. She believes love is built on trust, not money. If you can win her heart without showing your riches, we will believe you." The room went quiet. The challenge was serious now. For the first time, Arman felt truly tested. His pride would not let him refuse. He smiled and said, "Consider it done. Within a few weeks, she will be mine. And she won't even know I am a millionaire." His friends laughed, but deep inside, they wondered if this game would change the man they thought they knew. The next morning, Arman made a decision that felt strange to him. He put away his designer clothes, left his luxury car in the garage, and dressed like an ordinary man. No watches, no suits, no signs of wealth. He walked to the small school where Zoya worked. For the first time in his life, he felt nervous about meeting someone. He saw her standing at the school gate, greeting children as they walked in. She wore a simple dress, her hair tied neatly, and her smile was pure and warm. She was not like the glamorous women he usually met. She was calm, graceful, and carried herself with quiet strength. Something about her presence made his heart beat faster. Arman introduced himself as a man searching for work. Zoya listened with patience. Her gentle nature made her want to help him. After a short conversation, she guided him to a part-time job at the school library. For Arman, who was used to running companies and making millions, working in a dusty library felt almost insulting. But he accepted it, because it was his only way to stay close to her. Days passed, and Arman began to notice things he had never seen before. Zoya was kind to every student, even the ones who caused trouble. She stayed late after classes to help weak children study. She shared her lunch with those who had none. She earned very little, yet she gave so much. Arman, who always thought money was the key to happiness, started questioning himself. Why did her small acts of kindness feel greater than all the luxury in his world? Why did her simple smile give him peace he had never known? One afternoon, as Zoya carried heavy books to her classroom, Arman quickly stepped forward to help her. She looked at him with surprise and said softly, "You don't need to do that. You must be tired already." Arman smiled for the first time without pride. Sometimes helping someone feels better than anything else. Her eyes met his, and for a brief moment, silence spoke louder than words. It was the beginning of something Arman had never felt before. But when he returned home to his mansion that night, surrounded by luxury, he felt restless. For the first time, the laughter of his friends and the shine of his wealth felt empty. He kept thinking about Zoya, her kindness, and her honest heart. The bet that started as a game now felt dangerous. He was no longer playing for pride, his heart was at stake. But deep inside, fear grew stronger. What would happen if Zoya discovered the truth? What if she found out he was not a poor man working in a library, but a millionaire who had approached her only because of a bet? That night, Arman looked out of his mansion window, lost in thought. For the first time in his life, he was afraid of losing something money could never buy. And he didn't even realize yet that his life was about to change forever. Days passed, and Armin's life started to change in ways he had never expected. Every morning, instead of waking up late in his luxurious bed, he now found himself excited to reach the small school library. He had never thought he would enjoy stacking books, helping children find stories, or sitting quietly while Zoya taught. But something about being there gave him peace. Zoya, too, noticed him. At first, she thought he was just another struggling man who needed work. But slowly, she saw how he treated the children. Though he was new and untrained, he was patient with them. If a child spilled books, he would quietly help without getting angry. If a student struggled with reading, he would sit beside them and encourage them. These small acts impressed Zoya, though she never said much about it. One afternoon, after class, Zoya found Armin sitting outside under a tree, reading a children's storybook. She laughed softly and asked, "Do you really enjoy these stories?" Armin closed the book and smiled. "They're simple, but sometimes simple things teach us the biggest lessons." Zoya nodded. "That's true. Children's hearts are pure. They don't care about money or status. They only care about love and honesty." Her words hit him deeply. He felt a sting of guilt because she didn't know the truth about him. She believed he was an ordinary man, living a modest life, and he let her believe it. The bet was still in his mind, but the game no longer felt like a game. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Zoya invited him to walk with her. She rarely opened up about her personal life, but that day she spoke with unusual honesty. "My father worked very hard to give us a simple but honest life. He always told me never to be impressed by money. Money can disappear, but good character stays forever." Armin listened quietly, his chest tightening with every word. He thought of his own life, expensive parties, hollow laughter, fake friends. None of it had the meaning that Zoya's simple words carried. He had always been proud of his wealth, but now, for the first time, he felt ashamed. The next week, Armin's friends began asking him about the bet. They wanted to know how close he was to winning. But Armin avoided the topic. He didn't want to talk about Zoya as if she were just part of a challenge. She was no longer someone he wanted to win. She was someone he wanted to truly know, someone he didn't want to lose. Still, a part of him feared what would happen when the truth came out. He couldn't keep hiding forever. One day, Zoya found him sitting silently in the library. She noticed his eyes were distant. "Is something wrong?" she asked kindly. Armin forced a smile. "No, I'm just thinking." She sat beside him. "You always look like you are carrying some heavy secret. You don't have to tell me, but I want you to know, sometimes sharing makes the heart lighter." Her gentle words broke something inside him. For a moment, he almost told her the truth. He wanted to say, "I'm not who you think I am. I'm not poor, I'm rich. I came here because of a bet." But his fear stopped him. If he revealed everything now, she might never trust him again. Instead, he looked into her eyes and said softly, "Thank you for trusting me." Zoya smiled, and that smile felt like sunshine to him. One rainy afternoon, something unexpected happened. The children had left early, and only a few staff members remained. The rain poured heavily, and the street outside flooded quickly. As Zoya tried to leave, she slipped on the wet ground. Armin rushed to her side and helped her up. She laughed, embarrassed, but when she looked into his eyes, she felt something different. For a long moment, they stood silently under the rain, their hearts speaking louder than words. Later that night, as Armin lay awake in his mansion, he realized the truth. He was no longer thinking about the bet. He didn't care about proving anything to his friends anymore. What mattered was Zoya. What mattered was the feeling in his heart, a feeling he had never known before. But fear still haunted him. What if one day Zoya discovered who he really was? What if she learned that everything started as a cruel game? Would she hate him forever? For the first time in his life, the confident millionaire felt helpless. He had always believed money could buy everything. But now, facing the possibility of losing Zoya, he realized that love was not for sale. The bet had started as a joke, a challenge made in pride. But now, it had turned into something real, something dangerous. Armin had fallen in love. And the deeper he fell, the heavier the secret grew inside him. He knew that one day he would have to choose between revealing the truth and losing her, or hiding the truth and living in fear. Either way, his life would never be the same again. The days turned into weeks, and Arman's bond with Zoya grew stronger. The school library, which once felt small and dusty to him, had now become the most peaceful place in his life. Every moment he spent with her felt meaningful. She would talk about her students, her dreams, and sometimes even her struggles. And Arman listened with patience, something he had never done before with anyone else. But the guilt in his heart kept growing heavier. Every time Zoya smiled at him, he felt unworthy. She believed he was a simple man, struggling to make ends meet, yet full of honesty. In reality, he was living a double life. At night, he returned to his grand mansion, his servants, and his expensive world. But in the day, he lived as an ordinary man, pretending to be someone he was not. One evening, as he walked her home, Zoya asked him gently, "Arman, what do you dream of? What is it that you want in life?" The question struck him. All his life, his dream had been about wealth, power, and respect. But now, when he looked at her, the only answer he wanted to give was you. Still, he could not speak those words. Instead, he replied softly, "I want to find something real, something that doesn't disappear." Zoya looked at him, her eyes reflecting a quiet understanding. Then never build your happiness on lies. Lies break hearts, but truth gives strength. Her words pierced his soul. He wanted to confess right there, to tell her everything, but the fear of losing her stopped him again. Meanwhile, his friends grew impatient. One night, they gathered at his mansion and demanded answers. Seima laughed, "So, Arman, how is your little bet going? Has the teacher fallen for you yet?" Arman's face darkened. "Don't talk about her like that." The room fell silent. His friends stared at him in shock. They had never seen him so serious about anyone before. "Wait," Seima said slowly, "are you actually in love with her?" Arman didn't reply, but the silence spoke louder than words. His friends exchanged uneasy looks. What had started as a joke was now dangerous. Arman was no longer playing a game, he was risking everything. The next day, something unexpected happened. Zoya invited Arman to her small house. It was a simple place, with old furniture and faded walls, but filled with warmth. Her mother welcomed him kindly, offering tea in cracked cups. Arman sat there, humbled. For the first time, he felt ashamed of his mansion, which was full of gold but empty of love. As he looked around, he noticed how Zoya's family lived with dignity, despite having so little. Her mother's smile was genuine, her words kind. Zoya didn't hide her life, didn't pretend to be someone else. Everything about her was real. That night, when Arman returned home, he walked through his giant hallways but felt lonelier than ever. His riches meant nothing compared to the warmth of Zoya's small home. Days later, a school event was organized. Parents, children, and teachers gathered to celebrate. Arman worked behind the scenes, helping set up chairs and carrying supplies. Nobody knew he was a millionaire, and for once, he felt free. When the event ended, Zoya thanked him. "You've done so much for the school. I don't know how to thank you." Arman looked at her, his heart racing. He wanted to say, "You've already given me more than I ever dreamed of." But instead, he just smiled. That night, however, his world began to shake. Seima, the very friend who had made the bet, warned him. "Arman, you can't keep this up forever. Sooner or later, she will find out who you are. And when she does, she will never forgive you. End it before it destroys you." But Arman was no longer thinking about pride or winning. He was thinking about love. He replied firmly, "If losing her is the price of truth, then I'll pay it. But I cannot lose her because of a lie." Yet still, he couldn't gather the courage to confess. One evening, while walking Zoya home, rain started to fall. They ran for shelter under a small roof. Soaking wet, they laughed like children. For a moment, the world disappeared. Arman looked into her eyes, and something shifted. Zoya grew quiet, her cheeks blushing. She whispered softly, "I don't know why, but I feel different when I'm with you." Arman's heart pounded. This was it, the moment he had been waiting for. She was slowly falling for him. But instead of joy, he felt pain. He knew this love was built on a foundation of lies. Later that night, he stood in front of his mirror, staring at his reflection. He saw the millionaire, the man who owned cars, land, and businesses. And he saw the ordinary man he pretended to be for Zoya. Which one was real? Which one did she love? The bet had started as a challenge, but now it had become a trap. He was falling deeper every day, and the weight of his secret was crushing him. Arman knew the time was coming when truth would explode like a storm. And when it did, he feared Zoya's pure heart might never forgive him. Arman's life had become a storm of emotions. Every morning, he left his mansion dressed as a simple man, and every night, he returned home carrying the weight of a secret that grew heavier each day. Zoya's smile gave him peace, but her trust cut him like a knife. She trusted him blindly, without knowing who he really was. One afternoon, Zoya found him sitting quietly in the library. His eyes were distant, and he seemed lost in thought. She placed a book in front of him and said gently, "You always look like you're hiding something. What is it that troubles you, Arman?" Her words shook him. He wanted to confess, but fear held him back. Instead, he forced a smile and said, "It's nothing. Just life." Zoya didn't push him further. She simply nodded and replied, "When the time is right, truth always comes out. Hiding it only makes the heart heavier." Those words haunted him for days. Meanwhile, his friends grew restless. Seima especially had begun to worry. He visited Arman at his mansion one night and said firmly, "This has gone too far. It was just a bet. But now, I can see you've lost control. End this before she finds out. If she discovers the truth from someone else, it will destroy her, and you." Arman's anger flared. "She is not part of a bet anymore. She means more to me than anything I own." Seima looked at him with pity. "Then you should tell her the truth yourself. Otherwise, fate will do it for you." Arman knew Seima was right. But his fear was stronger than his courage. The next day, at school, something happened that shook him even more. A wealthy businessman arrived to donate money for the school's development. Arman knew him. It was one of his business rivals. While handing over the check, the man casually mentioned Arman's name. "I wonder if your school has ever met young millionaire Arman Khan. He's a powerful man in the city." Zoya laughed lightly. "People like him live in another world. We're too small for such people to notice." Arman stood nearby, his heart sinking. She didn't know that the man she trusted every day was the same millionaire she thought belonged to another world. That night, guilt tortured him. He paced in his room, unable to sleep. The truth was a ticking bomb, and sooner or later, it would explode. Days later, the school organized a charity event to raise funds. Zoya worked tirelessly to make it successful. Arman helped in every way he could, carrying supplies, setting up decorations, and even staying late into the night. On the day of the event, the hall was filled with parents, children, and supporters. Zoya gave a heartfelt speech about honesty, kindness, and the power of love. As she spoke, Arman's eyes filled with tears. She was everything he had ever searched for, pure, strong, and true. After the event, when everyone left, Arman finally gathered the courage to speak. He walked up to Zoya, his hands trembling. "Zoya, there's something I need to tell you." She looked at him curiously. "What is it?" His voice broke. "The truth about who I am. I'm not the man you think I am. I'm." Before he could finish, a familiar voice interrupted. It was Seima. He had arrived late to the event, and without realizing, he spoke the words Arman feared most. "Zoya, do you even know who he really is? He's Arman Khan, the millionaire. This whole thing started because of a bet." The world stopped. Zoya froze, her eyes wide with shock. She looked at Arman, waiting for him to deny it. But Arman stood there in silence, guilt written across his face. Her heart shattered. "A bet," she whispered, her voice trembling. "All this time, you were playing with me." Arman stepped forward, desperate. "No, Zoya. At first, yes, it was a bet. But then everything changed. I changed. What I feel for you is real. Please believe me." but tears filled her eyes. You lied to me every single day. You looked into my eyes and hid the truth. How can love grow from lies? She turned and walked away, leaving Armin broken. The hall, once filled with laughter, now echoed with silence. That night, Armin sat alone in his mansion. His friends tried to comfort him, but nothing helped. For the first time in his life, he realized money was powerless. He had built his world on lies, and in doing so, he had destroyed the only real love he ever found. He knew Zoya might never forgive him. But one thing was clear, he could no longer live as two men. If he ever wanted a chance at redemption, he had to prove his love, not with money or power, but with truth and sacrifice. And so, Armin made a silent promise to himself. He would win her trust back, not as a millionaire, not as a man of pride, but as someone willing to lose everything for her forgiveness. After that night, nothing was the same. Zoya stopped talking to Armin. At school, she avoided his eyes, spoke only when necessary, and kept her distance. The warmth that once connected them had turned into a wall of silence. Armin tried many times to explain, but she never listened. Her heart was broken, and her trust was gone. For Zoya, the pain was not just about the lie, it was about the betrayal. She had let him into her simple world, trusted his words, believed his kindness, and in return, she discovered it all began with a cruel bet. Armin, however, was not the same man anymore. The arrogant millionaire who once believed money could buy anything was gone. Now, he was just a man desperate to prove that his love was real. One day, he waited outside the school gate. When Zoya walked past him, he followed quietly. "Zoya, please, listen to me once. Yes, it started as a bet. But it became my life. You became my life. I'll do anything to earn back your trust." She stopped, her eyes filled with tears. "You don't understand, Armin. Love without trust is nothing. Every word you said, every smile we shared, I can't stop wondering if it was all part of your game. You broke something inside me." Her words cut deeper than any knife. He wanted to speak, but no words were enough. She walked away, leaving him standing in the rain, his heart heavier than ever. Days turned into weeks, but Armin didn't give up. He began to live differently. He stopped attending the luxurious parties, stopped wasting money on meaningless things. Instead, he used his wealth to help the school. Quietly, without telling Zoya, he funded repairs for classrooms, bought new books for the library, and provided scholarships for poor students. When Zoya noticed the sudden improvements, she was surprised. She asked the school board, but no one revealed the donor's name. She never guessed it was Armin, who stood far away, watching her smile from a distance, never asking for credit. One day, a crisis struck. The school was in danger of shutting down because the landowner wanted to sell the property. Panic spread among teachers and parents. Zoya was heartbroken, her entire life was tied to this school. Armin saw her pain and knew this was his chance to prove his love. Without telling anyone, he bought the land with his own money. But instead of putting his name on it, he transferred the ownership papers to Zoya. The school was now hers. When Zoya learned the truth, she was stunned. She rushed to his mansion, the first time she had stepped foot there. Armin stood quietly as she entered, holding the papers in her hand. "Why did you do this?" she asked, her voice shaking. Armin looked at her with tired eyes. "Because this school is your dream. And I don't want you to lose it because of me. I don't want you to think about my money, Zoya. I just want you to know that my love is real, even if you never forgive me." Tears filled her eyes. For the first time, she saw the man behind the pride. He was broken, sincere, and willing to sacrifice everything. Still, her heart hesitated. "How do I know this isn't another trick? How do I know you're not still playing a game?" Armin stepped closer, his voice trembling. "Because this time, I'm ready to lose. I'm ready to lose everything, my pride, my money, even you, if it means you'll believe that I love you. I don't want to win anymore, Zoya. I just want you to heal." Silence filled the room. Zoya looked into his eyes, searching for lies. But for the first time, she found none. She saw the pain of a man who had truly changed, a man who had once believed money was everything but now understood the value of love and truth. Slowly, Her anger melted into tears. You broke me, Arman. But you also showed me that people can change. Love is not about perfection, it's about honesty. If you promise me there will be no more lies, then maybe I can learn to trust you again. Arman's heart nearly stopped. His voice cracked as he whispered, I promise. For the first time in weeks, she smiled through her tears. And in that moment, the distance between them disappeared. The bet that began with pride had ended with love. A game that was meant to prove money could buy anything had instead taught Arman the greatest lesson of his life. True love cannot be bought, only earned. From that day forward, Arman was no longer just a millionaire. He was a man who had found something priceless, Zoya's trust, her forgiveness, and her love. And as they stood together, side by side, both knew that their story had not ended. In truth, it had only just begun.